welcome back once again to my channel. So this time we have Cultists facing off against the Orcs and Goblins. So the Cultists army I've been tailoring with a little bit, and this is the army that I'm now putting on the table. So I completely got rid of the Brazen Beasts because I didn't like them after all, because they're really charge dependent, and if you don't come through a unit, then yeah, you're gonna be stuck in combat, and they don't really grind very well. And in this list you can still see that I have some Lemurs. They're actually Myrmidons still in this list, but after this battle I changed them to Lemurs because the Myrmidons, they kind of have the same issue, where you have to get the charge off in order to fully function as you would like to. And also the combination of having strength 5 with just AP 1 didn't really tick the boxes that I wanted in them. So the list eventually comes down to 2 big blocks of possessed. These guys are really good for the points that you pay for them. Then the big combat unit in the army otherwise is the 6 Clawed Fiends. They have +1 to wound against large, so they have offensive 4, effectively strength 5. With all the magic in the army, they perform quite well, I must say. So then for the list of my opponent, he has Orcs and Goblins. Actually that is just only Orcs this time. The Goblins, you might find a couple of Goblin fillers in the Gnashers, but that's about it. So yeah, he basically went for an army that just feels Orc bodies. So you have common Orcs, you have more common Orcs, even more common Orcs, no advisor upgrade. It's just going for quantity rather than quality with that. He does have a small unit of Iron Orcs, and then he has 2x6 Cave Trolls. So Cave Trolls are really hard-hitting units for the amount of points you pay for them, as well as the Gnashers. Like these 23 Gnashers for 300 points is the offensive power that comes out of those is ridiculous, if you see how much they cost. So in terms of magic, I have Divination on my Demon Symbiote, and I have Avocation on my Master of Ritual. So these are the spells that I took, and my opponent has a Wizard Master on Shamanism, so he took the obvious choices in Shamanism, which is Awaken the Beast, Totemic Summon, Break the Spirit, and his Hereditary spell. And then here you can see some army picks. So first off we have the Cultists. I'm using my Dreadov army as the Cultists themselves, and I'm using a War Machine Quicks army as the demons. I'm gonna use Movement Rays to convert the round bases into square ones. And my opponent recently painted up his Black Orc unit, and he was very proud of that, so this had to be in the battle report, so here you go. Then we go into the battle itself. As you can see, we were playing in circle, and the secondary objective we had was Spoils of War. With the special rules of the Cultists that they are able to choose deployment sites, or they get a +6 to the rule, I chose the top side with the ruins, and I chose the flanks, because otherwise I thought that maybe my opponent was going to be able to put a lot of pressure on the flanks, and I didn't really want that. In hindsight, I think it might have been better to take the center instead, because the flanks give you less space to deploy your units, and then I could have just deployed a bit more backwards in the middle of the field. But then again, the hill in the middle also just give you some opportunities if you manage to go on there first turn. Yeah, so in terms of deployment, my opponent decided to drop all his troops the first opportunity he had. So in the previous battle reports you could see that he didn't do this against the Cultists, and afterwards we spoke about it, and we both thought that it would be better against the Cultist army to deploy your entire army first, and well, he just decided to do it and see how it went, how it influenced the counterplay against the army. Yeah, so seeing this deployment again back, I would say that I should have given him the flanks instead of the center of the board, because then he would have been way more congested in terms of deploying his army. Yeah, going into this matchup, I was quite confident, because yeah, these Clothed Fiends, they do have +1 to wound also against the trolls, so whenever he tries to shove some trolls in my face, I can just put the Clothed Fiends in front, I hit him on 3+, I wound him on 3+. He doesn't have any armor save anymore, or just a 6+, and he does have the regeneration, but once he starts hitting back, he's hitting me on 4+, he's wounding me on 3+, and I still have a 5 up Aegis. So with my magic support, I think I would grind them out with regards to the trolls. And my possessed units, they strike first at any unit that he puts in. I have a demon symbiote with strength 8 to counter his Great Green Idol. So yeah, any unit that he has, I'm not really that worried about if they go into my units in favorable orientations, which the cultists can often pull off. So yeah, going into this battle, I was quite confident about it. You can see my counter deployment, as you can see, I mostly try to hide in one corner of the field, and then I still have one unit of cultists that are a little bit off of the middle of the field, just so I can still march through the ruins and spawn a unit of demons in a later turn all the way on the flank. So it is on. My opponent starts the first turn, and he's just moving up. Basically, he's first vanguarding with his Wolf Riders, and I don't think he had any plan of taking care of these possessed units. So these possessed units, they're really insane. They have 2 attacks model. They start with strength 4 with agility 5 for the elf variant. And they have 2 attacks. They have offensive, defensive 2. That's the real downside. But they do have a 5 up Aegis. They do have light armor. You can either give them upgrade to get an extra strength. So they go to strength 5. You can give them a spear. So if you're 6 white like I am and you charge in with a unit, you first get an agility 7, 25 attacks with offensive 2, but strength 5. And you have the spot of magic to give them reroll to hit, because you can get it from avocation, you can get it from divination. So that's a real fix to their low offensive. You also have Node on enemy to get them to offensive 4 if you want. So yeah, the problems that this unit has, yeah, you can easily solve them with the magic from the magic phase. Alternatively, I have been looking at maybe getting the upgrade that you get +2 on your armor. Then you're looking at a unit with a 4 up armor save and a 5 up Aegis save. But you don't get the strength 5, you only get the strength 4, but you can also get just a reroll to wound if you want. But then again, if you're playing an elf with a spear, then it might be interesting to just go for the red haze upgrade. So the only thing is that any natural to hit rolls of 1 are resolved against the unit itself. But then again, with a reroll to hit, you don't get a lot of to hit rolls of 1 anymore after the reroll normally. Yeah, so my opponent is just advancing generally all across the field. I deployed all the way on the left side because I saw that he had these 2 blocks of infantry all the way on the right and the Nashes also on the right. So I thought that it would take a lot of time for them to come into the battle, so I could cope with like half of my army on the table for these first couple of rounds. So my first turn, I do get the chance to charge in with both of my possessed units, and I do so just because I want to get them in combat as fast as possible. I want to get as much revenue out of these units as possible. This does open up my flank to the Orcs on the left side, but I can easily chaff them by summoning a unit of Furies in front of them. And in this list I still have the Furies, but I'm going to swap them out for Eidolons. So these are the old upgraded horrors, like the Flamers of Tzeentch. So in this iteration they have 2 shots each that normally hit on a 3+, I believe. If you summon them, they count as having moved, so they would have 10 shots on 4+, and at strength 5, I believe, or at strength 4. But any saving throw that you make of a 1, a 2, or a 3 is always a failure against this unit. So against knights, it's really nice to just have a unit that, well, you're gonna use it as a chaff piece anyway. But then if you can still get off 10 shots before removing it from the field, that's even better. And even better if you can get a stand and shoot off. Yeah, so this is the turn 1 as it happens. So the cult leader is going further into the corner actually. I have a unit of cultists that is there to hold up his goblins if they manage to win the fight against them. Even though I do strike first, so maybe I should have actually deployed them a bit wider to get some more attacks in. And then we go into the combat with the possessed. I do get some magic off to buff them, so I believe I have a reroll to hit on one of them. And I don't remember what I have on the other one, but it was also just a buff spell. So they've both been nicely buffed. Yeah, and then we go into the combat with the trolls. The possessed, they really make a lot of effort to kill the trolls, and they actually manage to break them without losing too many models themselves. And in the other combat, I grind down a lot of Iron Orcs, but they are just steadfast or stubborn because of the Iron Orc Chief. I'm used to people running a lot of pumped up characters with Aegis saves and stuff like that. So I didn't focus on killing the Iron Orc Chief, but I should have. Because he only has 3 wounds. He does have a nice armor save, but I have AP 3 on my attacks. So I should have killed him, and then possibly I would have just been able to break the unit a bit earlier. Yeah, so there's a lot of dice rolling going on. But in the end, I'm feeling quite confident about this, because I still have my unit of Clawed Fiends to summon, I still have a Blazing Glory, 2 Titan Slayer Chariots, and the unit of Myrmidons. So these Titan Slayer Chariots, they are... I think that, yeah, they are nice. They are 205, 210 points. And yeah, for 210 points you already have them with the Divining Snout upgrade, so you get +2 charge range against anything with a special item. And they have +2 advance when charging a Towering Presence model. So with the base advance of 7, you go to a charge advance rate of 11 inches against any model with, or any Towering Presence model with special items. So just against characters with some special stuff, that's really far. So it's a great zoning tool. I don't know if I need 2 in the list, but yeah, so far with the possessed units, they already are really sturdy combat blocks. So it feels a bit ablative to include more combat stuff in there. And also the Demon Roaster has some nice combat units, but besides the Clawed Fiends and I think most notably the Sirens, I don't think there's a lot of really nice combat blocks in there. Just basically because the Brazen Beasts, they need to charge. The Hoarders, they're set for defense. Clawed Fiends are nice, and then you still have the flies, the bloat flies, but I don't really judge them highly, I think, and I don't have the models for them, so that makes it easy. Yeah, so in a normal demon army, this is kind of compensated with the greater demons, but in the cultists you don't have those, so you have to find your combat prowess somewhere else. Yeah, so then we go to the turn of my opponent. So my opponent, he does charge in with the Wolf Riders on the left into my cultists. I'm gonna be steadfast at discipline 9 because my cult leader is within 18 inches and he has the Master of Ritual upgrade, so he has an inspiring presence range of 18 inches. And otherwise, well, my opponent tries to advance up towards my lines. He's threatening with his trolls my cult leader in the top left corner, so my cult leader unit cannot really get away. I do have this Scurrying Veil on my cult leader, so I could actually march him away from there and march him to the middle unit. That is a little bit off the board next to the ruins, because with the march rate of 20 inches I should be able to manage that. On the other hand, I do also want to just deploy the Hoarders there somewhere. And my opponent still has the Wag available, so he can make the Trolls go to advance 7, and then with Swift Stride he will most likely reach a charge against my Cultists all the way on the left. Or in the top left corner, I mean. But alternatively, I could have gone for the option of just putting my cult leader on the middle unit and then running away, deploying Hoarders on his flank so that he couldn't really charge in there without risking a counter charge of my Hoarders in his rear. So that would have been another option, but I was also quite confident about the fact of having just my Clawed Fiends on my side of the battle line, basically. So yeah, in his turn he cleans up the Furies with his Orcs, and my turn, yeah, we continue to grind with the Iron Orcs, by the way. So I should have removed a couple more models than I did, I feel. But my opponent also felt like he should have removed a couple more possessed than he did. Yeah, I charge in to the giant with my possessed unit with the demon symbiote. So my opponent is mostly using the giant as a chaff piece at this moment. And I'm just trying to get my value still out of my possessed, which is going fine. So in the magic phase, I do summon my my Clawed Fiends in front of the trolls, and I do summon my Myrmidons in front of the Orc unit that's on the bottom. Yeah, I don't know if I should have done this, because probably I could also have gotten away with deploying the possessed after the combat in a different way and just leaving the Orcs for what they were doing in the bottom left. Because the matchup between the Myrmidons and the Orcs, I don't know about it. I should have maybe just gone for a flank charge move. So if I were to have deployed the Myrmidons behind the Wolf Riders on the left, out of line of sight of the Orcs could have charged into my possessed unit that is facing the Iron Orcs, but my opponent didn't have anything to go into that unit unless a lot of the Iron Orcs are gonna die, and then he can put his Great Queen Idol in there. But if a lot of them die, then he will probably break, so I can get a formation change, so I can start facing the incoming Iron Orcs, or the incoming Orcs on the left. And then the other unit of Possessed could make an overrun and end up in the Trolls. So that would have been a better play, I think. So just stepwise, not deploy the Myrmidons within line of sight of the Iron Orcs, but to the left of them, out of line of sight. Overrunning with the left unit of Possessed on the hill that is now engaging the giant, because I will most likely break it. And then the right unit of Possessed on the hill, they can, depending on the outcome, either reform to face the Orcs, or if my opponent is not able to charge in with, well, there's a couple of situations possible. That the most ideal would be that he is not able to charge in with his Great Green Idol, and I can just face the Iron or the Orcs on the left, just in case he's gonna try and charge me there. But as you can see, he loses so many models of his Iron Orcs that his Idol is able to charge, and the giant still sticks, I believe. And he's running away. I did 6 wounds to the giant, so that was a little bit unlucky because I just missed this last wound. I believe I had a reroll to hit on my unit, And remember, I do have the character in there with 4 attacks, offensive 5 or 6, with strength 8, so that giant should have been dead. And I don't know why I now reformed there. But anyway, I should have done it differently already with the Myrmidons. So here you can see more clearly the mistake that I have made in this battle, because as you can see now, my opponent is able to charge into my Myrmidons with his Orcs and also with his Warballs. I actually didn't see that coming. And he can leave my unit of Possessed that has been buffed. He can leave him alone for a turn. So that is not really good. That diminishes the revenue that I get out of this unit. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with the Myrmidons. My opponent's casting some magic. He's trying to cast a lot of totemic summons. He's getting one this turn, and he puts it in the ruins next to my unit of Cultists. That is outside of Inspiring Presence range. So the funny thing about these Cultists is that they then only have Discipline 6, and they are not fearless, unless they're joined by a character, so the chances are quite likely that my unit will run away after the breath weapon of the totemic summon. But I believe I actually make the discipline test, so I was quite surprised by that. If I hadn't made it, it wouldn't have been a big problem, however, because I would have run away towards my general again. Maybe I would have rallied this turn already. Otherwise, yeah, the situation's not going to be really different, because now I'm stuck next to a totemic summon. If I flee away and I rally, I'm also stuck kind of close to a totemic summon, so it doesn't really matter, because my unit is not really geared for combat. Yeah, otherwise my opponent's still just trying to cast some spells. He walked his mage out of his orc unit, mostly because I don't have any substantial ranged threats. So I do have the Spear of Infinity on my cult leader, but that's, I believe, it. So that's only one strength 5 hit. That increases in power with every successful spell that I cast, so it is still interesting for me to try and cast it, but inflicting 2 wounds still leaves his caster alive, and at this moment he really wanted the caster in the position he is in, so he thought it was a good sacrifice to make. Then we go to the combat with the Myrmidons and the Orcs. So my opponent does quite a lot of wounds. So in total I believe he does 9 wounds, which leaves me a little bit underwhelmed by the unit. I believe I also just fluffed my dice, so that's not a real good way to test the unit, of course, but yeah, they suffer a lot here, but at least they do hold, they do stick because they're demons. Then we go to my turn. I'm still chopping up against this Orc Chief with my Possessed, so this is really insane, because I'm just chopping up like 12 attacks a turn at strength 5, that hit on a 4+, I believe. 4+, or maybe 5+. But they wound on a 4+, and my opponent only has a 5-up save against them. So I would have expected with the reroll to hit spells on them that they would shoot through this Iron Chief way more easily, but apparently they don't. So in my turn I do charge him with my Clawed Fiends onto his Trolls, going for the favourable matchup there. And yeah, I do realize that my army is kind of bleeding dry at this moment, whilst my opponent, I did manage to kill one unit, or to cripple one unit of Trolls. I did manage to get a favourable matchup with my Clawed Fiends. I did clean up his Iron Orcs, so I did already do a lot of work on his army, whilst not suffering too much myself. But the fact that my Myrmidons are gonna just be removed from the field by his Warballs is kind of pulling on me. So that could also have been a unit of Sirens of the same cost, and they would have performed way better, I think. So yeah, I'm thinking about a switcheroo there, because I now do have the unit that is suited to counter the large models with the Clawed Fiends. I think the Sirens are also a nice addition to the armoire. And yeah, this is the state of the board now. So in the magic phase, I try to buff up my units again. I have my character with the strength 8 weapon against the Great Idol, so he does get also his favorable matchup. So it all seems to be going quite well, and we'll just have to see what the future holds for us. So the only thing I'm really scared about is the unit of trolls that is able to get a flanking charge on my possessed on the hill. I mean, um, just these units on their own I can kind of handle. So if the trolls charge in the front of the possessed, that's fine. If the giant charges in, that's fine. If the Nashes charge in, that's also fine, because I go first with still my 24 attacks. But if the three of them combine and the Nashes try get the same agility as my possessed, or they strike even, yeah, they would strike at the same agility, then I'm in trouble, because then my unit of possessed is just gonna die. So I don't want that, so I faced him. I reform so that I have both his Nashes and his Giant and his Trolls in the front of my unit, and I just hope for the best. There is a charge possible from his Orcs in the flank of this lower possessed unit. If he makes that one, then I'm a little bit in a bad shape. And he also has a wizard. So this is something that annoys me a little bit about the 9 days rules, where you don't get to use your spear bonus if you're being charged in the flank. I think it should be that you don't get a bonus if you are charged in the flank by something that has at least 1 rank. So, for instance, in this case, if my opponent charges in with his wizard onto my flank, I don't get a spear bonus to the front because I'm disrupted by this wizard guy who has like 1 wound left. I mean, that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Yes, so the Clawed Fiends, they do manage to clean up the trolls quite nicely, only suffering 2 wounds in return. And in that way, they also chaff up the orcs on the close to the forest from being able to charge into my possessed in the flank. So my opponent basically has to charge in his wizard for me to lose my my agility bonus with spears. I might have wanted to just 5 dice no die enemy in this round, but it's, yeah, with all these combats happening everywhere and all these units of my opponent still everywhere, it's kind of hard to see what's gonna happen after all the reforms and stuff. So maybe I should have taken a little bit more time to think about everything, just to see the possibilities. Because in this case, my opponent can go in with the Nashes onto my unit. If he manages to clear my unit, he has an overrun into the flank of my other possessed unit. So that was really unnecessary. I believe I even the other possessed unit was still in combat at the start of this round, so I could have just easily reformed so that he would have an overrun into the front of my unit rather than in the flank. Yeah. So otherwise, I spawned a Titan Slayer chariot just as a chaffing piece, basically. My Blazing Glory to try and deal with the warballs of my enemy. But it's, yeah, at this point I'm still facing an army that's reasonably competing against mine, in the sense that, yeah, it feels a bit stronger at this point than what I have left, mostly because of the negation of my agility buff of my possessed. So this 300 point unit of Nashes Yeah, I kind of expected to just chaw through my lines now and just clean up the remainder of the army I have left. Um, but I also still do have my Cloud Fiends. Yeah, how would Cloud Fiends fare against Orcs? Yeah, they might do alright, right? So, yeah, we roll a lot of dice. My Possessed, they strike still at the same time as the Nashes, so they do clean up some Nashes. I believe this was actually quite a bad roll for me because I only managed to kill like 8 Nashes or so. So with the Sport of Magic, with the reroll to hit, I don't know if I had it on, but I likely had it on. With the reroll to hit, I should have done way more damage to that unit. But now it kind of happened that the Nashes went into flank of my other possessed unit. They're gonna clear that up. My opponent is in a bad shape in terms of the condition of his army because he has lost a lot of pieces. But it's Orcs and Goblins, so basically the second army, the second wave is coming through, and my crippled first wave is not being able to deal with this second wave. On my turn, however, I am able to charge the Blazing Glory into the Orcs and the Titan Slayer Chariot into his war boss. So that's at least something I got going for me. And yeah, it seems like the matchup between the Cloud Fiends and the Orcs is actually not that good, because I lost 2 models and my opponent lost a couple of models, but yeah, then again he's gonna be steadfast. He's gonna keep his strength bonus from Born to Fight. I'm gonna lose models which is affecting my martial prowess. My opponent is not, so that's a bit of a bad situation for me. Yeah, and at this point, I still managed to pick up quite some points. But yeah, as you can see, it's mostly the Orcs and Goblins that are taking the field here. Because I'm going to lose my Cloud Fiends, I'm going to lose the Possessed, my opponent is going to be able to pivot with his Gnashes to look for a new target. Actually, my Blazing Glory does manage to kill off the Orcs. My Titan Slayer Chariot does manage to kill his war boss, so that's something I got going for me. But he still has a unit of trolls for which I don't get any points. And he still has this unit of Orcs all the way on the right, they're alive. And he has 1 unit of Orcs that has fled away now from the Blazing Glory, I believe. So if he manages to rally that, there's still some points there. So in the end it actually becomes a 13-7 for my opponent based on points. So in terms of secondary objective, my opponent got the secondary objective quite clearly because I don't have any scoring on the table anymore at the end of the game, and he still manages to get at least 1 unit within 6 inches. Yeah, so in the end it's a 16-4 for my opponent. So after battle thoughts, I kind of screwed up with the Possessed on the hill, with 1 or 2 of the reforms. I did screw up with the summoning of the Myrmidons, so sometimes, well, I should have just counted on the fact that I would go through the giant on the hill with my guy with the strength 8 at least, and then not give him any charge targets basically with his Orcs. And I should have just 5 dice no down enemy to get the agility buff against the Nashes. I think that would have made a big difference, because then you're looking at a unit that was the unit with the character, so I could have reformed wider because his Nashes were 7 wide or 8 wide, 8 wide I think. So I could have gone to even 10 wide if that fit. And if I'm 10 wide, I have 20 attacks there. I still had a couple of models left. I had like 20 models, so that's like 30 plus characters, 34 attacks or something. So without any other buff, with no other enemy, I hit on 4 plus, so that's 17 hits, is like 15 wounds. And then only after that I think Nashis get to strike, so they only have 16 attacks left if they are 23 to start with. So that's 8 hits against defensive 4. And that really changes the matchup, so I should have just have 5 dice node on enemy and hoped for the best there. Anyway, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.